Gentlemen, if you don't know already, we discuss anything and everything that will help you become a better man. And if there's any way to level up your life, then we talk about it. And why this episode is going to be invaluable for you is because we are talking about porn. I said that correctly, porn, and how this affects your masculinity, your mindset, your attraction levels. And why this specific guest is so amazing to me is because he coaches men on how to quit porn in the most effective ways and uses techniques and methods that just flat out work. I absolutely adore this guy. We have had some incredible conversations. Not only has he become a colleague of mine, but also a good friend. And I can't wait for you to dive in with us as we dig into this topic. And so many men are so scared to talk about this and turn a blind eye, but not on this show. So let's jump in. I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode, and I'll see you in there.
Welcome to the Muscular Gentleman. Where we don't apologize for being men. Masculinity, sex, fitness, and attraction, helping men reclaim their masculine edge, improve their sex life, get the body they've always wanted, and master their mindset to build a life worth living. This is the Muscular Gentleman, and now your host, Ruston Webb.
Awesome. Okay, Ruston here. This is going to be an exciting podcast. I love podcasts with men where the conversation is rich, which is funny because this is Frank Rich, and he is somebody that I met at a fitness conference in Nashville, Tennessee, and we hit it off, and the conversations, I mean, it was like instantly I thought about, we got to have more conversations. So I want to introduce Rich. I want him to tell you what he does because it's unlike most people's jobs, but he is a phenomenal coach. But yeah, please tell us what you do, because this is a fun subject and extremely important for men to hear about.
Absolutely, brother. And, honored to be here today. Felt the same way in Nashville. It would have been cool to have maybe a recording there in the saloon with us that night. I mean, right. so much of that conversation was probably needed for the audience. So hopefully we can maybe, recall some of what we shared there. And no matter where we go today, it's going to be absolutely incredible and valuable for the audience. So yes. Yeah, you said it, Frank Rich. I'm the CEO and founder of Rebuilt Recovery. And our goal and mission, what we're here to do is help men become better men by quitting porn and rebuilding their lives. So, it's, I always say it's like I didn't wake up one day and decide, yeah, you know what, I want to go help men that are struggling with porn. Like, it sounds like a fun thing to do, right? Like, nobody would ever say that. Just like you, obviously, like the work that I'm doing today has been a product of my own journey and story over, probably 25 years. So I'm sure we'll kind of get to some of that. But yeah, my life changed on February 14th, 2019, when I decided to quit porn after probably a 20-year struggle and addiction to it. In the next, few months, like as I, began to kind of get on the other side of this thing, going through a kind of a reboot and rewiring of the brain, which is kind of like the industry terminology. When you begin to kind of heal the effects of pornography, I began to see the world a whole lot differently, Russ. And for me, that was kind of the call. That's like, okay, people need to know, number one, what you went through, what your story and journey through recovery was. And then that led me to, just having people reaching out. Like, so the coaching today is not even something I wanted to do. It was something that kind of came to me. But yeah, so CEO founder of Rebuilt Recovery, the last 2+ years, we've helped about 3,000 men begin to take back control of their lives through our courses, books, coaching programs. So we have a lot of different offers out there. I would say I probably worked hand to hand, in a one-on-one capacity with about 150 to maybe 160 clients. So we've had tremendous success. Just like you, it's not specifically in one kind of parallel. So, I don't only address pornography with the men, because I don't believe that the problem is actually with porn in and of itself. So we look at all key, the 5 areas of their life, which I believe are faith, fitness, finance, family, and freedom, and help them build a plan to level themselves up in those lives and become the men that they were created to be. And that's kind of our tagline, is we help you quit porn and become the men that you were created to be. So yeah, that's who I am. And once again, I'm excited and honored to be here today.
Yeah, man, I think that's awesome. So what's interesting to me, porn is it's like people just hear the word and there's like this tiny cringe with a lot of people. because it's this taboo subject, which is funny because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? It's out there everywhere at our fingertips within seconds. And to address that with men, the Muscular Gentleman is very similar. It's all about how do we level up as men and become the best version of ourselves. Well, porn's a problem, right? Porn is in the way, and it's definitely not making you the best version of yourself. So do you mind talking a little bit to the men that are listening? Like, some people I think hear this and go, oh, I don't have a problem, or it's not that bad, or it's not that big of a deal. Like, what do you say to guys like that kind of downplay the idea that it could really like disrupt your alignment with life?
Yeah, you said a couple really, really key things there. I think the first thing we should do is maybe like actually address and maybe define pornography. It's a term that obviously, like you said, it is somewhat taboo. It's a sensitive topic. When people hear it's like, cringy, I don't want to talk about that. Yeah, I'm going to go watch it later tonight. So I'll consume it by myself with my pants down by my ankles, but I won't have a conversation about it. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, does it? But for me, my work is centered around helping men overcome an addiction to internet streaming pornography. And I think internet streaming pornography is a different animal. You and I think we're roughly about the same age. My introduction to porn was a magazine, right? It doesn't have the same stimulus effect. It doesn't have the same ability to hijack the brain. So, you talked about a couple things there, but I think for me, my drug that I help men with is the internet side of things. Yeah, there may be a man in his 60s that has a Playboy and he reads the articles still to this day. I don't know. But I also think it's important to talk about the fact that just because you look at porn doesn't mean you're going to be addicted. And I think that's where some people think I want to go as well. I'm not saying every guy that looks at porn has an addiction to it. Now, I have a certain worldview. I have a faith and a belief that I see the world, that there's no place for pornography in it.
Sure.
At all. But if you don't have that worldview, I'm not here to have an argument about whether what you're doing is good or bad. I speak to the men that actually do recognize themselves as having a problem. You and I had some drinks in Nashville. Does that mean that we're alcoholics? No, but I have a lot of friends that are in recovery, right?
Sure.
I don't do drugs anymore. I did a lot of them in my 20s, probably had some issues with it. Never was the point where I was like living on the street, but I've known people that have lived there, right? So I think understanding number one, we're talking about a drug. The drug is internet streaming pornography. It does have a lot of the same effects that many hardcore drugs and substances do. And it's just as, if not more addictive as all of those substances. So that's, I think, the context that we need to at least come into this conversation from. Now, the guy out there that's saying, hey, you know what? I watch porn all the time and I don't have a problem with it. What do I say to them? If you don't have an addiction to it, stop. Stop watching it for 30 or even go 90 days. And one of two things is going to happen. You're either not going to be able to quit, or you're going to come back to me in 90 days and be, damn, Frank, I didn't realize my life was that bad. I see the world completely different like you do now, and I understand what you were talking about. And I can almost guarantee 99.9% of the men that would take the challenge of stop watching it, one or two of those would be the outcome. They either wouldn't be able to do it, and that's going to signal that you have an addiction to it, because an addiction is the continuous use of a behavior and or substance, despite negative consequences to self and or others. And that's from Dr. Anna Lemke, the head of Stanford Addiction Center. So that's not my definition. That's hers, one of the leading sex addiction therapists in the world. So continual use despite negative consequences to self and or others. So if you have something you're trying to stop, yet it keeps calling you and you keep returning back to it, yet you're trying to quit, I would say that's a negative consequence because it's not aligned with what you're trying to do. So yeah, I don't know if I really answered the question specifically there, but that's what I would say to guys. I don't really have a problem with it.
That's phenomenal. I love that because it's okay. If you don't have a problem with it, stop. I hope the men are listening to this. Like, just ask yourself, can you just stop then? If you don't need it, if it's not a big deal, why not stop? And what's this is back to my Muscular Gentleman, right? Level up, right? Level up, improve your life. Same things you talk about with Rebuilt. The question is, does it actually enhance your life in any way? Because if it doesn't, really, why are you doing it? So why? What's the purpose? If it doesn't serve your purpose, then there's no point in doing it, right? So I love that.
Absolutely.
That's a great question. If you don't need it, just stop.
Absolutely. And I think that's a practice that we should all probably begin to interject into our lives in many areas, right? Go on a coffee fast, if you're a regular coffee drinker. It's things that I've done, cyclical. I'm probably ready to do for one about right now, because I'm probably drinking more coffee than I need to, is why I'm fired up for this conversation. But I think we should challenge ourselves, right? That's learning discipline. That's learning self-control. I'm a fan and advocate of the carnivore diet. Do I eat only meat all the time? No, but a couple months out of the year, I'll pick it. I'll say, what? These 30 days, I'm going to eat only meat. I feel incredible. I always get this focus, energy-wise, shoots through the roof, and it's just building some discipline. So I think it's incredible practice, man. Yeah. Men out there, if you're listening and you're consuming porn, stop. Go for a 30-day challenge and report back to me or report back to Russ. Just how did nothing happen? Did you get no benefits? Then I was wrong there. You were the 0.01% that didn't have that. So
you made it. Yeah. There's only a few, 0.1% of people can watch porn, and you guys are good. Yeah, no, I love that. And this goes back to, I want to go back to what you were saying too, because you said, your program's not all about porn, right? And I think that's what's so cool, because, well, it's addressing porn from a different area, right? So I talk about working out. It's one of the staples to my program. I know it's one of the staples to yours too. It's look, when you start lifting weights and hitting the iron, you're forcing your body to become mentally stronger, physically stronger. You're addressing ways to overcome obstacles, right? It might be subtle, but it's a practice that actually probably influences helping guys quit porn, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. So with a regular fitness routine, right? There's a couple, key takeaways that you're getting. You're getting structure. So you have structure in your life. Guys that are consuming porn, they typically consume porn when there's nothing else to do, right? I was bored. I was mindlessly scrolling social media. That man is lacking structure. So getting into a routine is literally injecting structure into your life. It's then discipline, right? Discipline is choosing what you want more over what you want now in the moment. So I'm willing to go to the gym today. It's going to be tough. I'm looking at, I got 5 sets of 5 on squats, and then I'm following that with deadlifts, and then I got pull-ups. Damn, that's a tough routine. But you're willing to go. So you're building the discipline. You're building the willpower. Then you could talk about the energetic release, right? Obviously when you go to the gym, you're just letting a lot of energy out of your body. Why do some guys need porn? Oh man, it's so stressful day. I just needed to have a release. Well, get your ass to the gym and have a release at the gym. It's actually a whole lot better. And then we can talk about so those are some of the benefits to I think every man should have that in his life. But you want to talk about, I've used the term rebooting, rewiring of your brain. When you go to the gym, it will actually produce some dopamine and some other, neurochemicals within the brain. So this will actually help in speeding up that recovery process. So yeah, it's a fundamental piece of our program. I think it's a fundamental piece of being a man, if you want my honest opinion. I think 100%. Men need to be strong. And you don't need to be. So I was a bodybuilder. So I trained in the gym to look good, right? But I'm not telling you that's what you need to do. But you need to be able to move some weight around. You need to have some strength. And if that strength is going to correlate you to be able to protect and defend your family, then that's your responsibility as a man. Some men have jobs that require them to be able to lift and move other objects. Obviously, he's going to need to have strength for that. I think building strength and just being disciplined is essential to being a man.
100%. That, the muscular gentleman, I call it that for a reason. And we're trying to maximize our masculinity, find that masculine edge where that energy is exuded throughout your life. And that's where attraction takes place, right? With women, which again, this is funny because we're talking about porn, but it's you want to decrease attraction and masculine energy, go watch another man have sex with a woman. That is so emasculating, right? If you really think about it, you're watching somebody else have sex. That's taking away your masculine edge. It's devaluing who you are as a man, having to watch somebody else. And I think that's such a key point for men to understand, of why porn is so unnecessary for your life, because that masculinity, the more you build it up, the more attraction you build around women. and they feel it, they sense it. They can, I mean, and lifting weights is another way to do that. I mean, it's just your testosterone goes up, your pheromones go up. I mean, they can sense it, you know, which again, you know, yeah, I'm kind of going off topic here.
But no, dude, you said something there, and I just add this aha moment, like that, just literally. So I don't think we talked about this, but I was a huge sports fan growing up. Like, I was an athlete, obviously, in high school. My entire childhood, like, I wanted to be a professional baseball player. Nothing else drove me more than the pursuit of becoming a professional baseball player. Obviously, that didn't pan out. That's why I'm standing here today, not on ESPN. But through my 20s and even through my early 30s, like, I kept on to the love of the sports. Like, I was never one of these fanatics. I never painted my face. It was probably around 26. I actually stopped wearing men's jerseys, like, with their names on their back. And I think that's a weakness in men as well. But you said that there because I haven't been able to figure this out. Something happened, Russ, in the last 3 years where I have no desire to watch professional sports at all. None at all. I couldn't tell you who is in the playoffs, if there's playoffs going on. Well, actually, I know that the Lightning are because I'm here in Tampa and it's just plastered all over the city. But outside of that, I don't know who the other teams are. I don't know if the NBA is still going on. I stay in touch with baseball a little bit because I do take my nephew to some games. One of my best friends works for the Rays, so he hooks up with tickets all the time. But now I think it's beginning to make sense, right? I was a spectator to sex, watching men have sex with wives all the time, and I became a spectator of other men out there playing sports. Yeah. And now I don't care. I don't care what, like, I love to watch kids. I coach a little league team. So I love to watch kids play sports because that's what sports and games are for, is for children. So for me, that's amazing, but I have no desire. And now as you're sharing this, I'm like, damn, it's because you stopped being a spectator to sex. So now you don't care what these guys are doing in the other part of life. And maybe I'm trying to piece something together that people are like, Frank, you're pulling on something really, really far there. But no. I do think that there's a correlation. But, you know, it's funny because I do talk to a lot of young men, right? You know, so I get teenage boys that reach out to me, which just breaks my heart because the only thing I can say is go talk to your parents. And many of them are even scared to talk to their parents because of the taboo topic of this discussion. Yeah. But I do talk to a lot of men that are 18, you know, into their early to mid 20s. And these guys are virgins, right? Obviously, they have no experience in an actual sexual, you know, real environment or actual real intimacy with a woman. And it's like they're almost scared and timid because they've been sitting on the sidelines consuming it as a spectator their entire life. And so there's a phrase in neuroscience, what fires together wires together. So in our brain, as we're doing literally everything, our brain is creating these neural connections, these neural pathways, and that becomes our default way of living and thinking. So these young boys that from the age of 10, 11 are just consuming sex as a spectator are conditioning themselves that when sex is taking place, they're not supposed to be in it. They're just supposed to be consuming it. Right. And it creates this anxiety. They can't look women in the eyes because all these like destructive things. But yeah, this is really fascinating.
Yeah. So that brings up a couple things. I do have to bring this up just because you talked about young kids. A couple things. One, men, you know, look, if you have kids, and most of the men that listen to Muscular Gentlemen and work with me are parents, their dads. You want to talk about setting the example for your kids, man. This is a huge topic that you obviously are digging into with these 14-year-olds and stuff. Look, there's no better way than to learn from your father, right? If you can be that muscular gentleman, that dad who can actually demonstrate and display what masculinity looks like. And just like we just said, right, the more you consume that, the more you're just watching someone else. And I agree with you. I haven't worn a jersey. I don't even know the last time I bought a jersey. I mean, and since COVID, I stopped watching sports too. It just I'm too busy. I got going on, and I don't know why. I mean, I won't ignore the Denver Broncos and like how they're doing, but I just don't consume it. I don't watch it as, you know, as a spectator as much. But I think you're right. It's like, do you want to consume or do you want to produce life, you know, like create.
Men are called to be creators, man, like made in the image of God, right? You know, like what did God do? God created the heaven and the earth, everything that we're seeing. So if we're created in his image, think of the creative power that is living inside of you, and you're going to waste that in a towel or napkin after watching, you know, two people that you don't know have sex with each other. Oh, that's a waste, man. It's a waste of why you're here.
Totally. Now I want to talk about something funny real quick. Okay. So this is the first, I can't remember. And Mom, if you're listening, I'm sorry. But so the first time I got caught with porn, it was magazines, of course. And she found them in my bedroom. I don't remember where I had hid them, but like, I think I was probably 16. I knew I could drive. But man, she lost her mind. I mean, it was like, she flipped out, you know, and my mom is a woman of faith. So it just like broke her heart. But you know, here's the interesting thing though about it that I find kind of interesting as a parent now. You know, my kids are too young right now, but I felt shamed, right? Like I felt like I was being shamed for something that is a natural thing, right? So how do you know, what kind of advice do you give to men? Like, I don't want to shame my boys if I discover that they, you know, bumped into porn and found it and things like that. How do you address that? Like, what's something, because for me, right, like I had to go on a car drive with my dad. He was so annoyed. He didn't even want to have to go on this drive and talk to me about it. But it was almost like he was like, just don't get caught kind of thing, which, you know, as a young kid, it was a weird, I'm like, weird. Okay. But you know, looking back, I'm like, you know, I'm glad it happened. It was something for me to understand, like, you know, I don't need this kind of stuff. But at the same time, I don't think I deserve to feel so much shame behind having feelings or desire for, you know, wanting to see a woman naked, right? Like that. I don't think that that's something I want to put down onto my kids, right? Or feel that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And I think that's what makes porn, I mean, so dangerous, right? Is on one side, it's tugging at like a natural part of the man's heart, like this desire for women, this physical attraction to the beautiful female body that it is, right? It was made that way for a purpose.
Sure.
So it's tugging on that. But going back to what I kind of layered the context at the conversation at the beginning, right? Is we need to look at it and understand that it is a drug, just like alcohol, just like cocaine, just like weed. You're going to have conversations with your children about the dangerous effects of those drugs, right? So why wouldn't we include pornography into that conversation? You know, this probably goes a little bit outside of the scope of work that I do. Obviously, I do have these conversations with men that are parents. I tell men, first of all, don't go have a conversation with your children if you still have the problem in your life, because that is going to come across as unauthentic, and kids pick up more from the energy, from the way that you say things and just how you're operating than the actual words that you're saying. So please do not have a go conversation with your son or daughter about them not consuming porn if it's still a problem in your life. Take care of yourself first. And I'm speaking to the men, obviously, that have a problem there, which is the men that I serve and help. Sure. But you know, I had Chris McKenna on my podcast. Chris runs an organization called Protect Young Eyes. What they do is they go around churches, schools, and other organizations and speak on the harmful effects of just all internet and all devices for young kids. And one thing he shared with me, and this is what he's taken into his family. I don't have any kids, so I'm speaking from just a place of opinion and maybe an expert here in this space. So I haven't actually lived this out in my own life. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, it's like it's going to be easy for me, because the minute my kids go on the internet, like, oh, what does dad do? It's going to be like, oh, he's been this porn addiction coach for however many years at that point. Right. I think you need to get in front of it, man. And Chris said, like, porn should be the most popular word in your house. Your kids should know it. They should know how they should use it. They should know how they should respond to it. And you shouldn't wait for them to come to you and be like, I saw something that I probably shouldn't have seen. Because here's the thing, Russ, is there comes a point in every single child's life when their eyes see something that their brain is not yet developed to handle. So the human brain doesn't develop fully. Females around 22, 23, the male brain 26, 27. So if the average age of first exposure to pornography is 10, 11 years old, they're not even halfway through the development of their brain, right? So I think getting in front of it, letting them know, okay, there's probably going to be a point in your life where you maybe are exposed to some images or videos that you probably shouldn't see. Here's what I want you to do when you see those. Come to me and let's have the conversation. So I think getting in front of it as much as you possibly can, understanding the different types of content that's going to be out there, and just creating a space where when they do see it, they feel safe to come to you and talk about it. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want them to see something that now creates this feeling inside of like, oh, I don't know if I should have saw that. It made me feel really good. Let me go see it again. But then they find out that it's probably something they shouldn't have seen, but dad hasn't really talked to them about. What are they going to do? They're going to not go talk to you about it, but they're still going to want to go get it. Because once again, this is how the human brain works. When you can't have something, you want to go figure out a way to get it. So yeah, I think getting in front of it as much as you possibly can, but coming from a place of true authenticity.
I love that. That's good. Yeah. that's interesting too, that you talked about the difference between streaming and like look, I'm 41, you fall into these concepts, like it was magazines, right? I didn't have like the internet. I mean, back then, once the internet was like starting up, like if you wanted to look at a photo, it took like 5 minutes to download onto your screen, right? And it was like, by that time you're like, forget it, like it's not worth it. But yeah, totally different space now, right? I mean, it is literally everywhere. You can, my kids could use, like, grab my phone and look it up, in seconds. That's just insane to me. What have you noticed the I mean, you grew up same era as me, like magazines,
Yeah.
What's the difference there with you kind of started to talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we're the same age. Mine, it's crazy you didn't see porn until you were 16. Like, I found a magazine when I was 6.
That's when she. Oh,
that's when you got caught. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Yeah, it's funny. I was actually having this conversation with somebody at lunch today. So, porn has been at the forefront of the internet kind of innovation since the beginning. Like, so the technology that we're experiencing today, like porn has really led a lot of that innovation, and it's led a lot of innovation in kind of the virtual reality space as well. What makes it so dangerous, though, is the amount of it that is there. So one site, you would literally take like 165 years to literally sit there and just consume every single video. Just last year, Pornhub, which is the biggest porn site in the world, pulled 10 million videos from their site. They pulled 10 million off because there was this whole thing with trafficking and age verification and whatnot. We don't need to get into that conversation unless you want to, but they pulled 10 million. So in the neuroscience world, internet streaming pornography is what's known as a supernormal stimulus. What this means is the effect in your brain, how your brain responds to the stimulus that you get. So you watch video through eyes. Eyes are part of the brain, produces a stimulus effect, produces the release of neurochemicals in the brain. That effect, that whole process is supernormal, okay, which means that there's nothing in the natural world that will be able to replace that effect. So I'm going to get into kind of explaining how dopamine works here for a little bit. Hopefully,
sure, let's
good. If I get too confusing here, reel me in. So dopamine is a molecule of motivation, meaning that it's released when we're in the pursuit of our goals, or that's what it's designed to do. So you set a goal to lose weight. Okay, maybe you want to lose 15 pounds. You decide to have, the egg whites and bacon for breakfast as opposed to the oatmeal and cookies. Hit a dopamine because you made a choice in alignment with your goals. So it's a motivation. So it's going to motivate you to do that. You drive to the gym. You're getting a hit of dopamine. When you consume pornography, so let's say that driving to the gym is like a level 2 dopamine hit. Pornography, because it's super normal, is like a level 20, well beyond like a normal baseline. Well, because dopamine works in a pain-pleasure cycle, if you give yourself a 20 on the pleasure side, it's going to have to follow by a dip. So anything that works in a cycle never goes up and returns back to baseline. In order for it to go up, it must go down first before it returns to baseline. You still with me?
Yep.
So we're going to watch pornography. We're going to get this massive hit of 20. Okay. Then we're going to dip down below baseline into the pain threshold of like a negative 20. And this isn't like pain, like, my arm hurts. It's like pain. I'm not motivated to go do anything. Well, how do you get out of that? Well, you need to get some more dopamine to bring you back up to baseline. But your brain knows, well, if you pursue your goals, you'll get to maybe like baseline. But if you go look at more pornography, we'll get you back up to like a level 10. So you create this cycle where you got to go get these hits followed by a dip. And then the only way to get you out of that dip is to get you back up to like another high again, right? This is like the chaser effect with drugs. Like, I don't know if you've ever done any drugs. I mentioned at the beginning, had a really bad coke problem in my early 20s. That first hit of coke that I had when I was like 22, I never replicated that effect, but I chased it for years, right? Like, I don't know if you know any coke addicts. They literally, like, they set their goal on getting more drugs, and the only thing that they're going to do is figure out a way to get more drugs. Same effect with pornography. When you're in that low state, okay, I need to get back up. Well, I just need to go find more pornography. So because it's on the internet, it's in our pockets 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't even need to go look for it. It's going to find you, right? Like, if you're a male and you're on social media, you're going to get fed certain types of ads and images. You go to download a video on YouTube. I've heard from parents say, I can't even download videos off of YouTube because I get filtered, I get blasted with porn ads. You go on Twitter, literally, there's porn on Twitter. So the fact that it's there 24 hours in our in our pocket 7 days a week, readily available for us, creates this massive cycle, massive dip, secret, nobody knows about it. That's where the cycle really comes into play. So hopefully that made sense, but yeah, it's a completely different animal than the magazine stuff.
I can't remember where I heard this, but something about with porn addiction or any addiction was there was like several factors. One of the factors being access to it, right? Like the access to it, but it had like several different factors. But I remember, the level of access that you had determined the level of addiction, or the maybe the difficulty of getting out of that addiction. And I think that's what makes this so hard, because you probably can't just, I mean, maybe some people, but for most people, you can't just go buy cocaine like that, unless you know the right people or have some kind of, so the level of what am I trying to say? The level of
accessibility.
Yes, accessibility. Yeah. This has got to be higher than anything, right?
Yeah. I mean, so these are the 3 A's of pornography are the accessibility, the anonymity factor, and the affordableness of it, right? Like you need cocaine, like you got to go get some money. Like your dealer's not giving you free cocaine.
Sure.
Porn is free. Or it's presented as free. Anytime a product is free, they'll understand that you're the product. So just like when you're on Facebook, you're consuming all these, pictures and videos for free. They're blasting you with ads. They're selling your eyeballs to another company. So you're actually the product when you're using Facebook, just so people understand that. So it's affordable. So it's 100% free. It's anonymous. Nobody knows about it, right? I can literally not leave my apartment and just consume porn all day long. Nobody's going to know about it. You're not going to have a massive alcohol addiction without people in your inner circle knowing about it. You're going to start showing up at places with your breath stinking. You're going to be slurring around. You're going to be stumbling over your words. People are going to know about it. Same thing with drugs. You're not going to have a hardcore drug addiction without the people around you knowing about it. I had a 20-year addiction. There wasn't a single person in my life that knew about it. Even the people that lived with me didn't know about it. So the accessibility that you talked about, the fact that it's literally in our pocket 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Sometimes it's going to find us before we even have to go look for it. The affordableness, completely free, and the anonymity factor. Those are the 3 A's that really make it so dangerous.
That's what that makes sense. And so just for the men listening, because obviously if they're listening to this podcast, there's some kind of interest in either quitting, but you named some stats to me in one of our conversations about the number of men that are addicted. It was like
so this is I believe this is out of a 2019 Barna research study. So I believe they said 70% of men, I think it was only men that were participating in this. So 70% of men admit to consuming porn on a regular basis. Okay, so maybe that's once, twice a month. So if we had 100 men, 70% of those men would admit to consuming it regularly. Out of that 70%, 40 to 50% of those men admit to having a problem that is maybe beyond their ability to control it. So we go from 100 down to 70, and then that 70, about half of those men. So you have a group of 100 men, about 35 to 40 of those men would have probably what could be diagnosed as a porn addiction.
Okay. So 4 out of 10 guys listening to this right now are probably interested in maybe even I would hope the 7 out of 10 are interested in the idea of quitting. Do you mind kind of discussing some of the ways that you go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like making any change in your life. It has to start with the acceptance and admittance that there's a problem, right? That there actually is something that needs to be changed in your life. I can't tell you how many men it's like, I've been trying for years. I don't even know what that means. What does trying mean? Like I don't try anything, and I know you're the same way, and that's why we are so. It's why we when we met, it's like, damn, I'm like a kindred spirit here.
Yeah.
So stop trying. Make a commitment. So I think it's got to start there. It's admit that there is a problem within your life, but then commit to change. And I mean, this is Tony Robbins is the greatest self-development guru of all time. What does he talk about? The power of a decision. Okay, so actually making a decision and commitment that you're willing to do whatever is necessary to change your life. Now, beyond there, how do you get into it? We use fasting, from food. Like, I think that builds discipline. I think that builds willpower. There's obviously a spiritual component to there as well. I would say once you make that choice and decision to quit for good, the only two reasons why you won't succeed in that is lack of character traits. So the inability to do the things necessary to live a porn-free life. Okay. And that's not a judgment of anybody's character, because character is not something that you're born with. It's something that's developed over time. So once you choose and decide to quit, you'll fail or slip back due to lack of character or lack of the belief within yourself. And this is where men that have tried for years to quit lack the confidence and belief in and of themselves. So this is a lot of the identity work that we do. So a lot of our work is centered around an identity change, and it's coming from the place of like, if you don't believe within yourself, we have to start there and build up the belief that you're actually going to be able to do this thing that we're trying to do. So the tactics and strategies, I mean, we need to get you into a structured routine within your day. We need to get you into a training program. We need to have some regular fasting. We need to begin living in a state of gratitude. You need to become a man of service. You need to develop some virtues and values within your life. This is what we build up over the course of 16 weeks. But make a choice and commitment, and then be willing to do whatever is necessary. Because I can tell you, like, you didn't come into this world addicted to pornography. So for you to say that you're never going to be able to overcome this is just a limiting belief within yourself. So choose, decide, and commit, and then follow the process and trust.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So one of the things that I love that you said there is making a choice, right? Making a decision. And it's funny because I just brought this up the other day with one of my clients, and I was saying, every time you make a choice and you don't follow through, you're literally building distrust with yourself. You're like proving to yourself that you're not trustworthy. And it's like, do you realize what that does to your psyche? Every time you go against the decision that you made or the commitment that you made, how do you expect other people to trust you, right? And it's something that's so important, I think, in relationships and in life, is committing to something. And I think men struggle with this. And this is where masculinity, I think, is so important, because I think society is swinging. And I'm going to just kind of segue us into masculinity a little bit, if you're cool with that. But, I think men... we are weak, man. Like, men are weak, and it drives me crazy because when you make a commitment, right? Like, we always talk about back in the day, a man of their word, right? It was a handshake or a man of their word. When they said they're going to do something, that's the way it is. Today, it seems like that doesn't really exist near as much, right? A man of their word, like a handshake and look, man to man, we're doing this or that. It seems like society's flipped, right? Like, it seems, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Because I struggle with it. This is why the Muscular Gentleman exists.
Yeah, no, I love where you started from there. I think Ed Mylett has one of the best ways of kind of, phrasing all that in kind of, one succinct sentence. I think self-confidence is built and kept by keeping the promises that we make to ourselves. And our confidence is nothing more than the reputation that we hold within ourselves. So yeah, when you say you're going to get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym, and that alarm goes off and you snooze, ding, we're keeping it tally. Subconscious is tracking all this. Then you don't make it to the gym. Then you have to rush to, because you snooze for an hour when you should have been up, an hour sooner. Then you're rushing to work and you're speeding through, traffic lights, and you ding a car and you're like, I'm not worried about it. Like, once again, ding, like, not a man of integrity. Man, you're speaking on like so much of why we pivoted the focus of Rebuilt Recovery, instead of just helping men with porn, to actually helping men become better men. Because I think that's what the world needs. The world doesn't need more weak men that aren't struggling with a porn addiction. The world needs more strong men, because strong men don't struggle with a porn addiction. So once again, I think we're running in a very parallel race here.
You've given me chills. I love that so much, because, and I love knowing there's like, I believe our coaching is so in alignment. I mean, I address more masculinity on my end. You, like, having the porn side, I don't address that, which is why I was so excited to have you on this show, because but yes, we need more men. Like, we need to show up, and I see society the way it is. I don't even want to get into the number of like genders that they're starting to create and all these things, but it frightens me, because, and part of this too, I have two sons. One's 2, he turns 2 in like a few days. The other one's 3 right now. And I'm telling you, I have to, right? It is part of my purpose is to leave a legacy behind where they know what masculinity is and they can pass that on. But I believe that's part of my duty as a man and a father. Like I have to do that. And what you're doing is the same thing. You're either pulling people out or you're building them up into this masculine space where it's like, I mean, we're dropping like flies, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah. And, you know, I think I mentioned it at the beginning. So, you know, I'm not a father. It's what I, you know, pray and dream about more than anything else. And, you know, I do believe that time will come. But I do coach. So I do coach Little League. And one of the reasons is because I felt the call. I felt the call that there's boys out there that need men in their lives. You know, I look around a Little League field and it's like, I just see, for one, I see a lot of moms. Like only moms, and like that's disheartening. Like, where are the men at the field, for one? Right. And the ones that I see are cowered up, sitting in the stands, like on their phone, man. It's just like, God, I see all these young precious souls, man. I'm like, if I could just have a couple hours with them and be a positive influence, will I change their life forever? I don't know, but I do think that there will be one or two of them that I do reach at a very, very deep level, because I know I had coaches in my life that did that for me. So that's a lot of why I do that side of just my regular personal life. You know, it's funny. I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but you're talking about, you know, the transgender and the conversion and all this thing. So obviously that swimmer guy that, you know, obviously made a massive kind of wave with winning the national championship. Thompson, I think, is his last name. So I saw a video this morning where he was. So I think he was interviewed on like one of the big mainstreams, and I hope this is okay if I, you know, sharing this. And he was talking about the reasons as to why he transitioned or converted, and it's because he wasn't happy. Like, he wasn't happy as a man in college. He wasn't happy. Like, do you know how often I'm not happy? Like, most of the time. Like, what man is chasing happiness? None of the ones that I'm aspiring to be like, right? No, we're chasing fulfillment. We're chasing purpose. We're chasing passion. We're chasing leaving a legacy. Happiness is a feeling that's fleeting. Like, you know, like I watch a funny movie, like it makes me happy in the moment. I hear a funny joke. I spend some time with my friends at lunch. That makes me happy. The goal of life is not to be happy. Like, it's to be fulfilled. It's to live out your purpose. It's to make other people's lives better. And how is you cutting off your penis making anybody else's life better? So when I heard that this morning, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to actually be able to talk about this, because these are not things that I really address a lot on my podcast. But I'm glad we're here today, because this stuff it really like wiles me up, man. And take it even a step further, man. Like I use Google Calendar, and I don't know if you do as well, but I've for the last week, I've tried to figure out how I could remove yesterday's like holiday that was slotted on all of our calendars. Like, I'm not recognizing Pride Month. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Like, I'm not here to recognize that. It's not a month that I celebrate, but it was put on my calendar by whoever higher up here is like, nope, you need to recognize this day. And I'm like, dude, and that may be way off topic here, but I think
I saw a really funny, but also such a great meme today, and they literally said, I know that it's Pride Month, and so I just want to celebrate and tell you that I am proud to be a masculine and that I am a heterosexual and all this stuff. It was so funny, but I was like, hey, you know what? It is Pride Month. You be proud to be a masculine man. Like, own that, be proud, you know? So I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, I agree with you. I love what you said though, because he said he wasn't happy, and I totally agree with this. This is what I struggle with is people like going after happy. It's this new, I feel like the society's this new state of feelings, right? Everything's about feelings and getting my feelings hurt, and I need everyone to just comfort me. And you know what? Screw feelings, okay? Look, a steak makes me happy, right? A steak makes me happy for the next 10 minutes, right? I love it. But I am not fulfilled. And I think that men need to understand there's a difference between fulfillment and happiness. And you are not chasing happiness. You need to chase fulfillment. And that's exactly what you said, which is being in alignment with your purpose and living that out. That's fulfilling. Now, we heard something at the conference that will forever stick with me, that I don't remember who said it. Maybe you will, but he was saying, look, if you want to look, every man inside of it, every single man, like deep down, if you have any ounce of masculinity and you want to be like the best man that you can be, wants to be a hero. And he said, look, if you want to be a hero, what hero is sitting on the couch eating potato chips and watching Netflix? No, they're out literally sacrificing their life to save people. That's a hero. You think they're like chasing happiness? No, it's a freaking hard job. It's not easy. It's a pain in the ass. It's painful. There's tears, there's loss, there's blood, whatever. That's a hero. So whenever have we decided that this new role for men is to just like cower up, worry about our feelings, and try to find happiness through porn, food, Netflix, video games, and whatever else is sitting out there?
Yeah, man, I need to connect you with Elliot Hulse. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Elliot's work, but this is a lot of where he's been taking his content here recently, man. Dude, we could go deep down this rabbit hole if you wanted to, but you talked about, the hero worship, right? Like, we made the comments about the sports and the cheering, and I get more excited for like the Super Bowl than I do for seeing my son play on a Saturday afternoon. Like, so there is a disconnect, man. Where does this come from? Like, a part of me, like, obviously due to, my faith and belief system, believes that this is just, this is just what was all, set to do. And I think some of this is biblical. You can kind of look at, communism, the Marxist agenda. This will be stuff that maybe Ellie could kind of talk a little bit more if you'd be interested in getting into it. But, yeah, we need, once again, it just comes down to, we need men that live their life in alignment with a core set of values and virtues and principles, and are willing to step up and be the leaders and create good for the world. So yeah, there's a lot for you to explore there, but I probably wouldn't be the best person to go down those rabbit holes.
No, I would
love to, but it would be more speculation than anything, I think.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Are you good on time?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do want to bring up a little bit. We talked about when we met in Nashville, we talked about masculinity. We talked about a little bit about your journey. And do you mind talking a little bit about, since you've quit porn and since you mentioned to me getting out of a toxic relationship, and since then, like, you are in this space, I guess you could say, of alignment with your purpose, and being just a total masculine man. I mean, dude, you're a muscular gentleman by my standards, for sure. So do you mind talking about that a little bit, that story behind all that?
Absolutely, man. Well, everyone, I appreciate that compliment. Meeting you and seeing you in the photos, I definitely, appreciate that a lot, man. So yeah. It's interesting because all of this started for me for a woman. Like a big driver as to why was because of the relationship that I was in. So at that time, it was 2019, February 14th, 2019. If anybody actually wants to know the date, it's kind of ironic that it was Valentine's Day, was, the day of love. But that was a day that, I had kind of come to grips with some research that I'd been doing for a couple months up to that point. It was really it came on the back end of a conversation. But back then, a lot of it was for Stephanie. So we'd been living together, we've been dating for 3.5, 4 years, rocky at times, but also maybe thinking like that there was a future for the two of us. A lot kind of went into that decision as well, and kind of things that we did that probably, if looking back, like I would have done things a little bit differently between the two of us. But yeah, so the next year and a half, as my whole world is changing. I talked about, I began to see the world a whole lot differently. Felt this call to really, start this podcast. The podcast then led to 6 months later, launching Rebuilt Recovery, which, in the last 2 years, I kind of shared the stats there. It was tough though, because I think for Stephanie was my ex-girlfriend. I think she still saw like the old Frank. So she obviously was attracted to the version of Frank that she met in 2016, the Frank that was addicted to porn, the Frank that had a lot of pride in who he was, the Frank that didn't have a relationship with Christ, the Frank that, so all these other variables, that was the initial attraction to her. And I believe that she probably still saw me in 2019 and 2020 as that individual, but the way that I was showing up was completely different. So there's this disconnect. For me, I do believe that being abstinent for the last 3 years. So one decision we did make, or I really made it for the two of us, which probably wasn't the best thing as well, is after being in a sexually active relationship for 3.5 years, quitting porn, I said, we're not gonna have sex. Like, if we get married in the future, we'll have sex when we're married again. So that probably caused a lot of like tension in between the relationship. I would never advise anybody to do what I did. I would advise men, though, if you're not married and you're struggling with porn, stop having sex. And I would advise married men too, to actually maybe even go on a sex fast with your wife. Because I do think it helps in the initial reboot recovery process. But for me,
making sure you're communicating with her
100%. Yeah, don't stop having sex with your wife without communicating that.
Why am I getting rejected?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, if you're working through it, she's probably already aware and familiar with what's going on, and explain to her, with her. I actually think it may create deeper intimacy and connection with the human being that your wife is, and then you can return back to, sex 90 days later. But
do you find women, when that kind of stuff happens, I'm sure you've coached men through this, do you find women to find more attraction for their men, to like seeing them step up as a man, to be more of the man they're called to be? Like, do you find that at all happen, or do you hear about it ever?
I've had a few women message me directly, like, Frank, thank you. You gave me my husband back. Like, I met my husband for the first time after he went through your program. Like, those are the stories that I've heard from women specifically. And I've had men tell me, like, dude, my sex life is better than it's ever possibly been. Like, my wife can't keep her hands off me. She wants to jump my bones every single night. So I haven't heard that specifically from a woman saying, yeah, I'm more attracted to my men now than I was before. But all that is telling me exactly that's
their actions are telling you exactly that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. But I think for me, obviously, mastering, my natural sexual desires over these last, 2.5, 3 years of completely denying myself from porn, sex, masturbation, nothing, has played a massive role in just who I've been able to become. Like, and I'm sitting on this post, I'm trying to figure out exactly how to word it, but like, I don't think a man should pursue a relationship with a woman until he's mastered the ability to transcend his natural sexual desires. Like if you can't control yourself, it's like sexually, you need porn to masturbate, or if you get denied sex, you got to go run to jerk off because you lack that much self-control. You have no right being in a relationship sexually with a woman. Like, either you're going to do something to hurt yourself, or you're going to do something that's completely going to let her down emotionally.
Now, this is something I talk about on the Muscular Gentleman show here, like attraction being one of the things we talk about a lot, and masculinity, obviously the biggest thing. But let me just say this, like you just hit the nail on the head. The ability to create attraction with the feminine energy, when you have that control over yourself from the urges of sex, it like, a woman needs to know that you don't need her. Mm-hmm. She feels that you don't need her. She's attracted to you, right? You become more valuable. It's like gold, right? It's this scarce commodity. It's not water. Even though we need water to live, gold is more valuable because it's so scarce. You become scarce as a man as soon as you just say, look, I don't need you. I don't need sex from you. I'm not chasing, your vagina. I'm just living out my purpose. But and this is where I talk to men a lot about this, the difference between wanting a woman and needing a woman. They're so different, huge difference. I want my wife. I want her, and I make sure she knows that I want her, but I don't need her. And she knows that, but that's what keeps the attraction between us. And I think porn is one of those things that creates neediness for a woman and for sex and things like that. And that neediness causes issues that guys just don't see.
Yeah, I do. I love how you said that. So I have something similar, that I kind of help my men with, not specifically in the relationship dynamic, more on this, on what our eyes do. Because obviously guys are struggling with porn, like they're just doing this, like everywhere they go. Like, where's the next ass? Like, you know what I mean? Like right. They just, and the female body is beautiful, right? Like God made it that way. And he made our brains visually responsive to that. So should we not look at a woman and appreciate her beauty? That'd be stupid, right? Like, what a horrible world to live in where you can't acknowledge and appreciate a woman's beauty. So the beauty is there for us to appreciate, not to participate. Sure. Like, and that I think is, when I tell that to men, it's like, whoa. Like it's just like it's completely it's a subtle difference. I'm gonna look and appreciate and acknowledge the beauty. Lord, thank you for this beautiful woman. Man, she is absolutely gorgeous. But it's not what I do with her, or man, if I had her in the bed, or like that's the participation thing. That's when she becomes a sexual object for your own short-term pleasure. So I know it's a little bit different than kind of like the wanting
but I think
needing, but I think the men that need women in their lives are the ones that every woman they see, it's like, oh my God, like what I would do.
I need, right? Yeah. And this goes back to society today too, right? Like this, like, well, what are my feelings? Well, your feelings can only...
Just go on Instagram today, right? Just go to any beautiful, attractive woman on Instagram and just pull up one of her posts, and it's the kissy lips and the eyeballs and seriously, man, like that's how you talk to women on the internet, is you kiss them some lips, like
yeah.
How's that working out for you, buddy?
Right. No, 100%. And this is another issue with porn where men just lose their ability to communicate. Like you said, they meet women and they're just like, they're stammered because they've been watching porn. One, with the dopamine response that you explained. Yeah. Two, they're by themselves doing something that isn't in alignment with what they're supposed to be doing. And then they go out in public, they meet the woman and they're just like stammered.
Yeah, it's cognitive dissonance, right? Like, what they're doing is not in alignment with the way that they're thinking or the way that they're trying to say that they're living in the world. That's a recipe for just destruction. Like when you're saying one thing, but then living in a completely different way.
Well, and how much would you, and this is just me speculating, but I'm just going to go out on a limb here. You watch enough porn, and then how easy is it for you to put a woman that you meet in person on a pedestal? Right. And all of a sudden you're worshiping her, which is one way to destroy attraction, is putting a woman on a pedestal and making her your purpose and your, everything. A woman doesn't want that. Women do not want to be put on a pedestal. They want to be with a man who has higher value, who has a purpose greater than them. That's where attraction's built. Right. And we kind of talked about that, I think, on our trip in Nashville, was just that ability to, one, not put him on a pedestal, but two, being that high value man.
Yeah, and you actually corrected me on that, and I appreciate because I think we were saying or thinking kind of the same things, but some of the language that I use, I was like, no, I'm the prize, like I'm the prize, and like I want men to believe that though about themselves, is that you are valuable to the woman. You should be incredibly valuable to the woman, right? Like so, I
think we were saying the same things from a different view. So. And for the audience, I'm going to break this down. So he was talking about being the prize. I believe, this is just me and the way I coach my men, but I believe, yes, building yourself up as the masculine man, you are the prize. However, what I don't want men to think is that women should be chasing them.
Exactly.
Because that takes out that puts them in the masculine, and then puts you almost in this feminine state because you're being passive and allowing this woman to chase you and be assertive. But if you are the prize, but she's also the prize, there's this mutual love and like connection, but you take on that masculine, you be the assertive, you chase her to an extent, knowing that you're the prize. But like, this is where men, I think, fall short. And Frank doesn't, you don't teach this, but there are groups out there, like in these forums and stuff with men where they want men to believe they should be chased by women, like get women to chase you and all this different stuff. And oh my gosh, it just kills me because that's not what men should be wanting as a masculine man.
Yeah, this is where you and I are, once again, we're so similar, and it's like we're kind of in this muddy space over here, like the red pill manosphere, like that's kind of the language on the internet. It's like, I don't buy into like any of that. Do I understand some of it from an evolutionary standpoint? Absolutely. A lot of that is 100% accurate and true. I've read Rollo Tomasi's book, so I understand that. I don't think that is the Bible, though. Like, that's not like the exact way. And there's a lot of toxic, weak men leading that space. Like, that's what I see when I hear that messaging, is I see a weak man leading other weak men.
100%. And I agree with that. I absolutely. And I think that book was great. Was it The Rational Male?
Yeah.
There's some good stuff in there for sure. And he makes some good, valid points, but at the same time, it's like they're losing the value of a masculine man and this ability to have our own strength. You want a woman to chase you, then you're just chasing external validation, right? You're wanting women to validate you versus finding that validation inside yourself, right? That's the problem. One of the problems with that concept. So yeah.
Dude, that was great.
Well, man, do you have any, this has been awesome. I absolutely love chatting with you. I feel like we could go for another hour on these different subjects, but
we're going to do this again for sure.
Oh, 100%, man. Absolutely. I think there's so much to talk about. And I love finding other men that are coaches like what you do, helping men quit porn, improve their body, improve their mindset, get alignment with their purpose. This is what we need. We need 100 more of you out there. And that's, I think, critical. There's too many men to help. And so I can't thank you enough for doing what you do. And thank you for being on this show. Is there anything like last words you might have or anything you want to say?
Man, how do I top what we shared here today, man? No, I appreciate that so much, brother. I obviously, I felt the connection, right out of the gate when we met in Nashville, and I knew that was going to lead to, this is just the beginning but for you and I. And I truly believe that. So we're going to be circling back. I'm going to get you on the Superhuman Life. No, man, last parting words. If people stuck around to this point, and you're interested in maybe exploring, like at this point, like, do you have a problem? Do you want some help? Maybe driving them to a couple of our resources. I'd say, if you're interested in maybe getting some help, check out the YouTube channel, release a video every single day. I do have a free book. It's called The 7-Step Guide to Living Life Without Porn. That walks you through, the 7 steps that we've helped 3,000 men plus begin to take back control. So the acknowledgement, the commitment, the fasting, the creating a plan for your life, the breaking that plan down into an actionable plan for tomorrow, building some accountability, and then building the belief. So those are the 7 steps we walk you through how to create that in your life. You can find that at the7stepguide.com. But no, man, no parting words. Just, grateful for you and what you're doing. Obviously, big fan of the Muscular Gentleman, and I think that this is needed out there in the world. So anything I can do to continue to support you, please do let me know. But yeah, the men out there, find us on YouTube, connect me on Instagram at Coach Frank Rich. But just thankful again, man, for you having this conversation today.
100%, man. I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much, man.
You've been listening to The Muscular Gentleman. Finally, a podcast that's unapologetic for being a man. Thanks for joining us this week. Make sure you visit the website, www.themusculargentleman.com. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you like the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or just tell a buddy about the show. That would help too. Don't forget, Ruston is available for private coaching. Embrace your masculinity and live the life you've always wanted. See you next time on The Muscular Gentleman.